Turn the lights back on. Wow. Retro electro tech. When real audio ruled the world.
Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Retro Ernest of Retro Electro Tech, and I'm back to work on the Marantz 2220 stereo receiver, of which I was servicing potentiometers. The potentiometers were in pretty rough shape, as I mentioned in a previous video. In fact, the volume pot was defective. I had to replace it with this replacement here. Okay, so let me go ahead and demonstrate this pot. First of all, I have a 400 Hertz tone injected into the receiver, and at a certain point, the tone is going to overwhelm the camera's microphone, so it's going to sound like it's not increasing in volume, but I assure you that it is. And also too, this potentiometer is a stepped pot, so it has little incremental clicks, very soft clicks, as you work the potentiometer through its ranges up and down. So here we go. So there you have it. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing, which I had to wait on a little bit, and but anyways, it's obviously installed. And during that time, I was performing a flush cleaning on the remaining potentiometers, such as this balance pot here, and down here on this board I have the treble pot, and disassembled here is the base pot, which mounts on this footprint here. And the reason I have it disassembled is, like I said, I performed a flush cleaning on the pots. They all responded very well except for the base pot, which encountered a problem during the flushing and rigorous rotation of the shaft, of course, in an effort to clean the wiper contacts and the track and all that, and get everything flushed out and so forth. I've explained this in previous videos, how to go about doing that type of cleaning. And anyways, what happened was when I was rigorously rotating the shaft back and forth and so on, the pot suddenly seized up, and there was a bit of a crunch. You can kind of hear the wiper in there just come to its absolute limit and come to a screeching halt. And what happened was, when I pulled the pot apart to see if it was something I could service, I saw here that, and let me just actually go ahead and zoom in on the situation here. Okay, that's probably pretty good there. Okay, so this black disc you see here that has the this whole wiper assembly, this contact mounted to it, you could see that the wiper contact came loose. Okay, and let me just demonstrate that. And originally, you can see here, let me bring it up a little closer, hopefully it doesn't blur too much, but that black little dot that you see there right here is actually the post that broke off from, I don't know if you can see this little, where my pointer is located right now. You can see that little round circle there. That's where the post broke free from, okay? So that should be over here. So what happened was, when the wiper sheared away, it literally, went off track. It broke loose, went off the resistive track, and it just jammed up in the body of the potentiometer housing and just came to a halt and bound up, okay? So, fortunately, the contacts didn't break, but it still doesn't do me much good, because although technically I could glue the post back to that base there with like a really strong two-part epoxy or something like that, I just don't feel really good about that type of repair and putting it back into service, because it's just, as you can see, it's just a tiny little plastic post, and with continued use and maybe even if somebody was to down the road inject more solvent into the pot to clean it if it needed it down the road, which at some point it probably would, the solvent may react with the epoxy or whatever adhesive I would decide to use, probably a 2-part epoxy, and end up weakening it. But I think just even without that being a factor, just the continued use, being that this is such a small little plastic part, that it may just break loose again. And that's the part that kind of bums me out a bit, because I thought I was going to actually get this out the door once the volume pot there arrived and I had everything flushed out. Now, obviously that's been delayed because I had to order some more potentiometers that I found again overseas, because sometimes it's fairly straightforward locating and ordering a replacement pot, but there's considerations like the shaft length, the size of the body, the body of the pot, and just other considerations, obviously the value, the taper, just the whole 9 yards. Everything has to be correct, because remember, over here we have the we have the control panel here with these knockouts, these existing knockouts, these holes here that everything has to line up with. The shaft has to be centered and everything has to line up, obviously, so the shafts extend through those holes, those knockouts, and everything lines up correctly, and the shaft length is such that it extends out far enough. So I just don't want to start getting into too many modifications, because that equates to time if I absolutely don't have to. So I'm trying to find the fastest approach, in other words, and the fastest approach as far as labor is concerned is, was hunting down another pot. Like I said, I found a couple that are going to be coming from overseas once again, which is going to delay this even further. And it took me a while just to get to this unit because of the workload I have in the shop, just to even be able to go through and thoroughly service all the controls and all that. So again, that's where I am. And the last thing that I have to do, aside from wait for yet another potentiometer, is, like I said, I just need to inject some fader lube into the, and just a little bit, a few drops or so of fader lube into the potentiometers, and just get everything relubricated in there. And then I'm going to go through and clean out the interior of this whole receiver a little bit better, and just kind of get, just do a little bit of detailing while I wait for that pot to arrive. Once that pot arrives, not a big deal. I'll get it mounted back to the board, and like I said, I'm sure everything's going to, mount up just fine. And so that's it. So that's where I am, and unfortunately, especially to the customer, really sorry about the wait, but things like this just happen. There's not much I could do. Parts fail. I've had that happen several times where, a pot will just seize up. Sometimes these little, wipers, these parts and all that, they bend, things get gunked up. You got old lubricants in there, and even stuff that people spray in there. Sometimes they use the wrong type of solvents, and, it just really causes a mess inside. And in this case, it was just that little plastic post that just decided to break off. It was just time. Plastic weakens over time, becomes a little bit more brittle with age, especially these older plastics and all that. It's not like some of the tough plastics of today that they use on pistol frames and all that. But a lot of these older plastics, sometimes they just degrade and they go. So that's about it. And as much as I would like to repair this, and I technically could, I don't feel that it's a good idea to put this back into service and have that little post break off again. So that's about it. That's all I wanted to cover on this. And like I always say, peace, love, rock and roll, and of course, vintage audio. So take care of yourselves. Until next time.
This is a poor man's shoe production.